Welcome back to A Quick Look, where we take a look at one of the cars from the Savoy Automobile Museum collection in Cartersville, Georgia. Today we're going to talk about a beautiful 1967 Corvette Convertible. You know, back in the 60s and the 70s, when something was really good from a performance or appearance standpoint, we said that it was bad. This is a bad car. There's nothing subtle about it. It's aggressive, in-your-face sports car, and we're happy to talk about it today. The Chevrolet Corvette is, in my opinion, the iconic American sports car. It debuted in 1953 and it's been in production for over 70 years now. Back in the 1990s, Corvette folks, and there are a lot of us, began referring to the different generations of Corvettes by their C numbers. C1 was the first generation. This is a C2 Corvette. Right now we're up to C8. The C2 Corvettes were produced from 1963 to 1967. This is the last year model for the C2s. GM actually intended for the C3s to be introduced in 67, but they just weren't ready. So they made some improvements to the C2, and some folks say it might be the best C2 ever. The color here is rally red, beautiful car. Got this big stinger down the hood. Again, nothing subtle about this. The front is actually pretty clean, and I like that. They reduced the size of the cross flags badge on the hood here, and there are no other badging. There is no other badging on the hood. You notice that it says 427 here on the hood scoop. That's the big engine. We're going to talk more about that in a minute. So a couple of interesting things about these wheels and tires. They're redline tires. This was the first model year when redline tires were offered on the Corvette. Also, this car has bolt-on aluminum wheels. They only sold 720 bolt-on aluminum wheel options that year. They're really interesting. You have to pull off this center section in order to change the tire. It's called a starburst. Really cool, really cool. And then you've got these louvers, as some people call them, but they're not really louvers because they don't open and close. They're really just vents. And it's a Stingray. I like to call them gills. Stingrays do have gills. I looked it up. Then finally, you've got these pipe sleeves down the side. I had an interesting conversation with a gentleman after I did a tour of the museum when this car was on display. And he said, "Steve, I know that some of these pipe sleeves were made here in Cartersville because when I was in high school, I worked on the press for the company that made them." So apparently there was a subcontractor, at least according to this gentleman, who made these pipe sleeves for General Motors for the Corvette line. So it's easy to identify a C2 as a 67 model because it was the only one of the C2s that had a color-coded fuel filler cap. Also, it was the only one to have the backup lights directly over the license plate. And then a final interesting thing about the rear end of the car is that the badging has Corvette Stingray, 2 words, on the back of it. The Stingray designation disappeared entirely for 1968. It returned in '69, but this time and forever after, Stingray was 1 word. So this is one mean performance machine. The standard Corvette, the base Corvette for that year, 67, had a 327 engine that generated 300 horsepower. This is a 427 engine that generates 435 horsepower. Now, I'm going to put an asterisk by that because a lot of people believe that the automobile manufacturers were understating their horsepower for various reasons back in the day. You've got the air cleaner on top. The engine is so clean and pretty. It's just nice to look at. And you've got 3 Holley 2-barrel carburetors on this engine and a 4-speed transmission that we'll see the shifter on here in just a minute. So consistent with the clean exterior of this car, the interior is very clean and neat and well done also. You've got an instrument cluster with everything well arranged. You've got a clock mounted over a vertically mounted radio. And it's interesting to me that the clock has a second hand on it. For the '67 model year, for the first time, Chevrolet installed the parking brake on the console. Previously, it had been in the floor of the car. Just a beautiful car done in this black interior. So for over 70 years now, we've enjoyed these great Corvettes. Some of the styling is timeless on these Corvettes, like the one behind me, the 1967 Corvette Convertible. It's a classic among classics. We're happy to have it as a part of the Savoy Automobile Museum collection, and we're happy that you joined us today. We'll see you next time.